Message from Starfleet Command, top priority.
You are listening to the TrekRanks podcast, a member of the Tricorder Transmissions Podcast Network. This is episode 135, featuring the top 5 Picard Season 2 moments. Welcome, Star Trek fans. I am Jim Moorhouse. I'm the host of the TrekRanks podcast, and tonight we are celebrating the recently concluded second season of Star Trek Picard. It's the top 5 Picard Season 2 moments. And for me, what a season, one of my favorites in Trek in recent years, but weirdly kind of polarizing too. So we'll see if how much that comes up tonight. There's a lot of people out there who didn't dig this season the way some of us did, which I kind of get. So anyway, we're going to dive into this and talk about Star Trek Picard Season 2. So let's see what's out there as we dive into some Star Trek Picard tonight. Let's introduce our guest. First up, returning for the 5th time on TrekRanks, it's Confederation Magistrate Ron Wrobel. Ron, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. Yes, this season I was not a huge fan of. Totally kidding. Loved this season. So excited to talk about it. When you sent me the message, I definitely nerded out. So super excited to be here to talk about this season.
Yeah, this one is cool. And making her 3rd appearance, hailing us from the East Coast corridor, it's Arielle K. Welcome back, Arielle.
Hey, Jim. Thank you so much for having me on again. I loved this season so much that I actually messaged Jim myself to ask to be on this episode after only the 3rd episode. So I'm sure you'll hear my enthusiasm.
That was amazing. That was, and it worked out when we were able to get you on. This is awesome. All right, let's jump into our TrekRanks recalibration.
What are you recalibrating?
Everything. It's a sweeping, a recalibration of all systems.
As regular listeners will know by now, general order number 1 of the TrekRanks charter is that we love Trek and we love to rate Trek via some deep dive topics just to get the conversation started. But remember, it's not about the ranks. That's just our excuse to talk about Star Trek.
But what is that Vulcan motto? Infinite diversity.
In infinite combinations.
And what is diversity? But a celebration of differences.
And as the poll and Dr. Phlox just said, TrekRanks is basically just a big old celebration of differences. There are no wrong answers at TrekRanks. It's not about being right or definitive in any way. It's just about sharing the things we love about Trek. We love it all, from TOS to TNG, straight through to Enterprise, the Kelvin timeline, and now Discovery and short treks. Star Trek Picard, Lower Decks, Prodigy, and for the first time, Star Trek Strange New Worlds as well. It's all fair game here on the TrekRanks podcast.
Black alert. Black alert.
And a reminder that this episode of TrekRanks is current through 845 episodes of Star Trek, which currently translates to the 2nd season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Children of the Comet. Of course, we're only going to be talking about really Picard today, so no films in play really.
I've boosted power to the communications bandwidth.
And we appreciate that, Mr. Kim. You can find TrekRanks on Subspace at TrekRanks.com. You can contact me directly on Twitter at TrekRanks or at Enterprise Extra. You can also call and leave us a message with your own picks at 609-512-LLAP. That's 609-512-5527. Okay, Ron and Arielle, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you on Subspace. Ron.
Yeah, so I am currently the host of the TrekCon podcast, part of the Trek Geeks Network, where we talk about the Star Trek convention. So you can catch me there, or on Twitter at TrekkerRon.com. Or no, just sorry, at TrekkerRon.
That's right. That's right. You're now a podcast host at the Trek Geeks.
Yes, sir.
Love that. Arielle, how about you?
Sure. You can find me on Twitter at Arielle, ARIELLEK18. And you might also see me posting around in some Star Trek Facebook groups.
Love it. Okay, let's jump into our level 1 diagnostic to get into this show.
Run a level 1 diagnostic series. Come.
Okay, so we just did one of these back on episode 132. We recapped Discovery Season 4. Man, what a year for Star Trek. Lots of shows coming at fast and furious. So just a quick breakdown again of the TrekRanks matrix that we use for our season recap shows. Remember, we don't just pick 5 episodes. We do 5 specific categories. So round 5, most of you already know this, favorite production design element. Round 4 is our top creative, behind-the-scenes person, actor, performer, or artist. Round 3 is the Dabo round. It's our wildcard round. Pick anything you want to talk about or highlight. Round 2 is your favorite character from the season. And round 1, of course, is your favorite episode of the season. And for all those picks, we'll associate one episode to them that highlights that pick as well as we can. And then we'll get into our secondary systems and even get into some deeper cuts. So this is going to be fantastic. All right, let's get into our prime directives and figure out how everybody broke down their list.
But what you're proposing is exactly the kind of tampering the prime directive prohibits.
Okay, Ron, I'm going to start with you. How did you break it down? How did you come up with your picks in these categories?
It was hard. I absolutely loved this season. This season made Picard my third favorite Star Trek series. So I absolutely loved this season. But I've been very busy with work. So haven't had a chance to watch most of the episodes more than once. So kind of scrambled looking at as many review videos as I could find, looking through the Wikipedia listings, and just kind of going with my gut on each one. This season, there was just so much packed into these 10 episodes. It was really hard to narrow it down. So I've got a secondary systems list that will take forever to get through.
It really was. This is the most binge-worthy season in Trek history. I think when people discover it now, it's just going to be like, wow, that was 10 amazing episodes.
Absolutely.
Arielle, how about you? How did you break it down?
Yeah, sure. Like Ron said, it was kind of hard to figure out how to break this down. I have also had an incredibly busy few weeks, so I only got to watch about half of the episodes a second time. Thankfully, there are some dedicated Memory Alpha writers, so I could reread for the others. And I really just had to go with what felt right for each category, and more importantly, what I felt like talking about the most, because there is so much to talk about.
Yeah, it's always a good way to do it. And for me, I'm the same. I've said on Twitter, this is my favorite season of live action Trek, of this new era of Trek. I absolutely adored it. But when I started diving into the topics, I gotta say there was like one item that jumped to the top of the list for each category. I was just like, yeah, I think this, and I kind of dug in, like, nope, sticking with that. So my list, while I have a lot of secondary systems too, my number one picks really kind of spoke to me. So I was didn't take me long to come up with my list for this, which is very rare. Okay, let's do this. First, Cadet, introduce us to the new order of things.
It'll be alphas like us that determine the future of this quadrant. That will be the new order of things.
Thank you, First Cadet. I can't wait to get into this. Let's get our quick reminder on how we're going to go through the order of things. First, everyone will start with their 5-word summary and a hashtag to tease their pick. Then we'll each reveal our Picard Season 2 moment and the reasons we're highlighting it, and we'll again associate an episode to that pick. And at the end, we'll ask everyone for a few secondary system selections for the picks that just missed our list. And as always, if we have any duplicate picks, make sure you're listening for the Defiant Torpedoes. Okay, Ron, starting with you. What's your number 5 pick? Top 5 Picard Season 2 moments, round 5, production design element.
So my 5 words are quoting Brad Boimler. She is a handsome lady. The hashtag is to bring light into the darkness. My pick is the USS Stargazer, NCC 82893. Just the design of this ship. It felt like it's been a while since we've seen a ship in this era that is just so Starfleet. And this ship it felt so good to see, and it was beautiful.
It's beautiful. We haven't seen a ship like this in a long time on Star Trek. It exposed in this way. Arielle, what's your take on the Stargazer?
I am so glad you picked this. It was my top 2 for this category, and I felt so terrible about cutting it. So I'm so glad we get to talk about it. It was so good to see.
Yeah, it's incredible. Just the way they introduced it for me was like I put this in my Trek Core review because it was like a 30-second shot of just the ship slowly coming in and scanning over the hull. And it's the kind of shot we haven't seen a lot in Discovery, which has a little bit of a different style for their effects. And it just felt like, wow, we haven't seen this. It was like movie level kind of slow-mo.
Yeah.
You know, just a shot of the hole where you can see every little detail. I really love that. And then once you get inside, it's like, oh, this is a natural progression of the 24th century spaceships that we love so much. 90s era Trek. Here we go. It was incredible. Really incredible.
Yeah, that whole episode, everything about the ship design, when we got the entire fleet, that was a gift for all of us. That shot with, I think it was almost 30 ships. So
yeah, and that too. Yeah, I mean, all those ships as well. What episode did you pick, Ron?
I picked the first episode, The Stargazer.
Yeah, of course. That makes perfect sense. Okay, so Arielle, you said this just missed your list, so now I want to hear what's your production design element.
Sure. My 5 words and a hashtag are mirror universe on production steroids, hashtag skull ducat. And I guess I might have cheated a little bit on this category because it covers a lot of ground, but I'm going with the overall aesthetic of the entire alternate future.
So that everything is brilliant. I love it.
Oh, it was so good. Everything from like Chateau Picard to the Confederation headquarters and the costume design, everything about this was so incredible. I just want to call attention to the redress of the set they used in Stargazer, where Picard gave his speech to the cadets. That's also what they used for Eradication Day, and it was fantastic. And also, I'm just waiting for someone to cosplay Confederation President Annika Hansen, because that was an incredible costume. Yeah. I don't know, this episode, I'm sorry, my episode was Penance, of course.
Yeah.
And all I wanted was to see more of this crazy, evil, darker timeline. And also, shout out to Spot 73, best Easter egg in the entire series, in my opinion.
Oh my God, I love Spot 73. There's so much to cover here. So I loved your 5 words and hashtag with Skull Ducat. Thank you very much. That theater of skulls, I mean, you had Gul Dukat, General Marduk, Sarek, the Grand Nagus. There was just something about that was just so cool. And they also had the first Cisco reference since the end of Deep Space Nine when the magistrate mentions General Cisco. It's so many deep cuts in this episode. The production design is spectacular from start to finish. And like you said, it's like that mirror vibe, mirror universe vibe.
Yeah, we never got a Next Generation Mirror Universe episode, and obviously this isn't the Mirror Universe, but it has that same kind of perversion of the normal timeline. Absolutely awesome.
Exactly. I was about to say, it's like the first TNG Mirror Universe episode, even though it's obviously not the Mirror Universe.
Absolutely. It was the next best thing to your Mirror Universe. You know, that we were in that universe for just barely a little more than an episode, and you could feel that it was an entire world. I mean, I wanted to spend episodes in that setting. Talking about the redress of sets too, I think Chateau Picard, seeing that redress, 3 different periods in the whole series. We saw it in the Stargazer, the first episode. We saw it in kind of this mirror alternate universe. And then we saw it in the year 2024, and seeing how that set just fits perfectly in all of those different settings was phenomenal. And then those skulls, the attention to detail on these sets, because we got to see those in Mission Chicago. They're so detailed up close. I mean, it's really something else, the attention to detail on this show. I think that is just a fantastic pick.
Yeah, they had Sarek's ears hanging from his skull. They had the Grand Nagus staff. I mean, it was the attention to detail was truly incredible on those.
Yeah, I had to pause on every single one of those skulls just to admire them. They were fantastically done.
And they also had I love the phasers they had on the wall, where there's like a Kelvin phaser, there's like a Kelvin timeline phaser. It was truly amazing what they put together. And like you said, Ron, it just felt, it was basically one episode, but man, it felt like a lived-in world. They just did such a good job with it. So love that pick. Okay, let's go to my round 5 pick. This is the first time for production design element that I thought, man, maybe everyone's going to pick the same thing. And Arielle, you just said you almost did pick the Stargazer. And of course, I did pick the Stargazer. There's no way I could avoid it. So my 5 words and a hashtag, ship that feels like home, hashtag, plus lots of shiny L cards. And I picked the Stargazer, the episode The Stargazer, just like Ron. So we talked about it a little bit, but it's just, for me, I said it before, it felt like, I mean, I love Discovery. I love that design, that element. But what we had here was like, it feels like a continuation of 90s era Trek that we just hadn't seen, because we haven't had a show like that showcasing a ship in that timeline. So it was just really cool to see that. You kind of, I'd forgotten how much I missed that, because we all love our 24th century 90s era Trek. So that part was great. They really made it feel like another character, right away. It felt like a ship you wanted to be on and wanted to protect. And the fact that it obviously connected, the fact that it was the Stargazer, right? That it connects back to Picard was so cool. And then that other moment was like, oh, Chris Rios is the captain of the Stargazer. How cool is this? I want to know everything about this ship. I want to watch this ship forever. Full credit to Dave Blass, production designer, and of course Mike Akuda and the other veterans that were part of that. Just a beautiful looking ship. Amazing. All right. Any other comments on the Stargazer before we move on?
I'll just say it kind of speaks volumes on Trek Twitter after the episode aired. There were so many people already saying, where's the Stargazer spinoff? And I am 100% here for it if that can happen.
Yes, please make the Stargazer spinoff. That would be so fun.
It's a sign of how good they're doing with these new shows that almost every episode now people are like, I want a spinoff of the Stargazer. I want a more of Q or a Strange New World. It's like,
what's the Starfleet Academy one? That's
yeah, exactly. There's so many.
Section 31, all of the above.
Yep. Bring them on. Okay, let's go to round 4. Ron, what is your behind the scenes creative actor pick?
So my 5 words are Trek is in good hands. #spoilers without spoiling. And my pick, it's a double pick. Terry Matalas and Dave Blass.
Yes.
I kind of picked the episode The Stargazer, and I really want to call out their involvement with the fandom through Twitter. They offered so many teasers leading up to this series or this season, but never gave anything away. We knew we were going to see a starship that would have Elcars, but had no idea what ship it was.
Yep.
In the first episode, Picard hands Elnor a novel, The Memoirs of Spock, and they posted the first 15 pages of this book. It's a literal book with the story of Spock in it. The attention to detail that these guys have and the passion they have for this show, it really shows through, and it just shows me that Trek is in such good hands right now.
What a tribute from those guys. I love this pick. Terry Matalas on Twitter is it's incredible how many little nuggets he gives you, just enough to really not tell you anything, but get you excited. And he's doing now. Yeah. He's doing it now for season 3 that's coming. Somebody tweeted something about, I like that, the star. He's like, who says that's the Stargazer? It's like, oh, really?
And we've seen people tweet them and at them and ask them questions, and they're so engaged. They're answering everything. It's really refreshing to see.
It really, really is cool. I love this pick. Dave Blass is unbelievable. What a mark he made on Trek in his 1 season, but he'll have 2 with season 3. But as a production designer, man, attention to detail. We talked about it for Penance. Just incredible what the effort they put into this. Arielle, what's your take on these 2?
Oh, everything you guys said. I'm kind of a newbie to Trek Twitter. I only got involved a couple months ago. And even from just that, Terry Matalas, I've interacted with both of these guys on Twitter, and it's so incredible to just actually be able to connect with people who are involved in these shows. So I appreciate calling attention to that too.
It's wonderful the way that they approach it. It's amazing, and they cut through it too. They don't deal with all the BS. It's cool. It's cool. Okay, Arielle, what's your round 4 pick for behind the scenes creative?
Yeah, sure. I am glad that you picked that because I could not stay away from the pick I ended up with, but that was 100% on the list, either of them. And okay, my favorites in a hashtag are the Borg with social anxiety, hashtag and she can sing. And I went with Allison Pill.
Yes.
Yes. Love it.
Allison Pill deserves all of the love and attention and affection in the world for this season. She was incredible in every single imaginable way. No pun intended, but what a queen. In all seriousness, her acting was incredible. It was almost like she had to play 3 different characters throughout the season because she had, Jurati, she had pretty much the Borg Queen personified at certain points, and also the incredible amalgam of Jurati and the Borg Queen termed Borgati that we get. That's so good. She went from playing like, hilarious Agnes in the Annika 7-shot scene at the beginning in Penance, singing at the gala in 2 of 1. And then like the inner conflict between Jurati and the Borg Queen, everything about Alison Pill's performance, incredible.
So I love this pick. Well, what episode did you pick?
Oh, sorry. I went with episode 9, Hide and Seek, which I thought about for a long time. I wasn't sure which of those 3 characters I kind of described that I wanted to focus in on. And I decided that I just wanted to see the condensed Borg Queen Jurati hybrid. And I think Hide and Seek did the best job demonstrating all of that.
I love that you picked that episode. I'm going to talk about that in my pick in a minute. But first, that scene with Alison Pill in Penance, where she rattles off the reason 7th, everything's kind of wacky to the magistrate, is one of the funniest, well-written acted scenes. It's just so great.
What's going on with you today, Annika? I've half a mind to have you tested for telepathic incursion.
How dare you even suggest? But this was all my fault, Mr. First Husband, sir. The Borg Queen was claiming that Romulans had infiltrated the palace with spies from a little-known sect called the Kawat Malat, or Final Stranglers, as they were known in the North. And I postulated it wasn't true, but I didn't have any proof until I saw that Picard had apprehended a Romulan. So out of an abundance of caution, I sent a coded message to my old drinking pal, the President, a.k.a. Annika 7-shot. It's a funny story. It's for another time. Wow. So that I could test my hypothesis, which we just did. There was a lot of screaming. Did you hear it? Anyway, it turns out the Queen was totally lying in a typical weaker-than-thou species bargaining for her life kind of strategy. And so she's off, going to be beheaded or whatever, and basically, as you were.
Madam President, we need you and General Picard on stage. It's time.
Annika 7-shots, that whole bit. And we forgot to talk about Spot 73 and give a shout out to Patton Oswalt with his first ever Star Trek cameo appearance, which was super cool. I love Spot 73.
It's barbaric, Public executions are needless displays of authority to a people already sufficiently subjugated. It's cruel and unusual, and beyond disturbing that this day is so celebrated amongst the masses.
Where am I?
Of course, I say all this subject to the faith customary between a domesticant and their master. Meow.
What are you exactly? Maybe don't tell me.
I am Spot 73, your very best friend, of course.
Oh, and I made you?
Obviously. Meow.
Right. Okay.
I'll say this on Alison Pill. This really stuck with me because I absolutely believe it's true. Brent Spiner in the Ready Room, they were talking. It was Frakes, Spiner, and Will Wheaton, and they were just generally talking about Alison Pill. And Spiner just kind of under his breath kind of went, "She's one of the greatest actors in the world." Like, he's literally just like, he said, she's just that good. And she is. It's her range and the ease in which she plays these characters. It just is incredible. She is a gift to Trek. So I love this pick. I love what she did this season. Ron, what's your take on Alison Pill?
I think you hit it right on the head. Season 1, Girardi's character was very shy and timid and quiet. And I think it's easy for an actor to get kind of lost in a role like that and almost have it come across as bad acting. So I think she was very underutilized in the first season. And then to see this side of her and the confidence that comes out, it shows such a range of acting ability. And this was a great performance. When she comes out and she's singing Strangers of the Night, it gives you goosebumps because this is not the Girardi that we know from the first season. She'd never get up and do something like this. So I love this character, love this pick.
I always think in the first season, when I fell in love with Girardi, and I know a lot of people didn't like first season Girardi, but I think it was the second or third. It was Absolute Candor, I think, where they're having a staff meeting. Sorry, they're having a crew meeting. And she kind of walks in, she's like, "You guys have a crew meeting? Am I part of the crew? What?"
Is this a secret meeting? Or am I technically part of the crew now?
Please, Dr. Jurati, join us.
Oh, my God.
Oh, good.
Okay, my round 4 pick. And I'm glad you picked Terry Matalas because I really considered picking him, Ron, but I went with a different angle. I've never done this before. I went with, my 5 words in a hashtag, Deconstruction of Borg obliterates ICE, hashtag writer's room statement. And my behind the scene was the writer's room, the whole writer's room, because I think a lot of times for Trek, the writer's room is really well known. Like we know of names that are in there. We know a lot of the people. This writer's room is under the radar. You got Akiva Goldsman and Terry Matalas, of course, because they've been, well, Terry Matalas is the showrunner, but he actually had to kind of let go of the reins of season 2 in the back half because he was focused on jumping straight into season 3, and Akiva Goldsman was there to help cover, but he was also working on Strange New Worlds. So when I was going through my stuff, I was like, I want to know the names of this writer's room. And so that's what I'm going to focus on here. I'm going to read you off the names of all the writers that just aren't household names and aren't well known in Trek. So besides Akiva and Terry Matalas, you have Christopher Monfette, who wrote 2-3 episodes. You have, obviously, Michael Chabon had one story credit during the season that was for Penance. Kylie Rosetter, I can't even say these names. See, Juliana James, Jane Maggs, Travis Fickett, Cindy Apple had 2 or 3 credits. Kirsten Beyer had 1 credit. Matt Okamura and Chris Derrick wrote Hide and Seek. That's their only credit of the season. I've never heard those names before, but I want to give them credit because that's an amazing episode. And by the way, that's the episode that I picked. And then the finale was written by Christopher Monfette, and I have no idea how to pronounce that, and Akiva Goldsman. So the reason I picked Hide and Seek, I'm going to go on a little rant here. This deconstruction of the Borg is one of the greatest things I've ever seen in Star Trek. The Borg have, people can say they've been overused as a Trek antagonist with kind of nothing left of mind, but I think Matalas and this writer's room turned it into something really vital for us to look at in the 21st century, because you're seeing all these countries and democracies that are, sliding toward fascism and this gigantic wealth gap. And here the Borg are being presented in this new way by Girardi and the Trek writers as, hey, instead of being the same old Borg, like these corporations and governments that are so annoying and so overbearing, just acquiring power and status, they turn their focus toward embracing the strength in the people that they've previously discarded as weak. And that's kind of the whole statement here for ICE, which is this, shitty group of people that instead of, are abusing people, instead of trying to help people. And I always just said this switch of the Borg collective into something of salvation instead of assimilation. Can you imagine an organization like ICE trying to help people instead of just trying to isolate them and separate them and treat them as less than people? It just really, really bothers me. So I really feel like the producers in the writer's room was making a direct correlation that ICE is a shitty organization that should be abolished. And instead of, being a government arm, we really should be investing in ways to help communities and help these people and embrace them. And here's a line that Girardi had: the top shelf, overreaching, Icarus-worthy arrogance of the Borg. I love that. These people, they can't see the way immigrants in countries around the world fight harder for what they choose. They can't see a world in which you lose no battles because you made no enemies. They fail to understand how attachments grow and deepen into strength in a society when people aren't being discarded and replaced. What a Borg deconstruction. Incredible, incredible stuff. That was a lot. I'm done. I love this writer's room. They did an amazing job. Amazing season. Ron, what's your take on that?
I'll just say ditto. No, it's absolutely, this writer's room did a phenomenal job. They took a story and, like good Star Trek, it is political. They cover a lot of the political issues of the day. And this time we were fortunate to actually see it happening in our day.
Right.
I think one of the things that this writer's room did such a good job, and it's so easy in modern television to lose sight of this, is that Star Trek is about optimism. And we saw from the very first episode where the Borg want to negotiate with Captain Picard or Admiral Picard at this point, who has been assimilated, who has lost so much to the Borg, and he's willing to negotiate with them.
Absolutely.
And we see that all the way through this season. Our crew is fighting to get back to a future that they know is a better future than what we would have with Q's timeline. So I think the writers' room did such a good job of maintaining that level of optimism in a time right now when a lot of people need it and have lost that optimism.
Yeah, I love that. That's right. It literally the first episode when they're saying, "Hey, let's talk about a new way to look at each other." Picard and Girardi were the two in the room saying, "This could make sense," and of course everyone's like, "What are you talking about?" Arielle, what's your take on my screed on the writers' room and how great they are?
Oh, they are incredible. Everything about the writing of the season I thought was great. And I also really like how you described the deconstruction of the Borg here. I really don't think I have anything to add to your incredible rant, so I'm just going to say ditto.
Love it. Okay, let's go to the Dabo round. Ron, what is your wild card pick? Anything you want to talk about?
So this one, I'm going to go for a little bit. My 5 words is what will season 3 bring? # Easter eggs galore. And my pick are the cameos, callbacks, and Easter eggs. And in true TrekRanks fashion for the episode, I picked all of them because there were so many cameos, callbacks, and Easter eggs. And I made a little list. So we get some obvious ones. We get Guinan, we get Q, we get Wesley Crusher, who nobody saw that coming. My jaw was on the floor. We were in Chicago and he went through this whole story of where he thinks Wesley is. And he lied to us. He knew very well where Wesley was.
Oh my God.
We saw Gul Dukat, General Martok, Grand Nagus, Zek, Sarek, all not in their finest. We heard about General Sisko, General Miles O'Brien, Lieutenant General Tasha Yar Tuvok, Kirk Thatcher. One of my favorite very quick cameos was, not cameos, but mentions was 7 of 9 mentioning how Captain Janeway tried to get her into Starfleet unsuccessfully. So we know that Janeway is still out there. And I didn't know about this one. I read about this on Memory Alpha last night as I was researching this. But at Starfleet Academy, we saw all the ship names. And there was the Hikaru Sulu. There was a few that we've seen. One of the ones I hadn't caught on was the USS, and I'm going to mispronounce this, Leon de Grants, which apparently is commanded by Captain Nyota Uhura. And previously, there had been a certificate where it mentioned that Picard as an ensign served on the ship under Uhura.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of like deep callback.
Yeah.
We saw the NX-01 refit. There were so many small details that your casual fans never going to notice. But those of us that live, sleep, and breathe Star Trek, we're loving this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this is how you know the writers love Star Trek. So anyone who says they don't know what they're writing about clearly doesn't know what they're watching.
Yep. I've said it a few times already. Not only are they paying attention, they're paying tribute. It's really, really incredible. Wow, what a list. What a list. You literally hit them all, I think. You got Tuvok, Natasha Yar. Did you say O'Brien too? Because he was on that list.
I did, yeah. And that I didn't even notice Tasha Yar and Tuvok in that scene until I was researching this. I'm like, every time you dig, there's just more and more.
And I don't think you mentioned, even in that graphic that's from Penance, where they were looking at kind of the Vulcan War, they call Vulcan Navarre too, which is another cool little Easter that they've unified. Incredible. I love that pick. Fantastic. All right, Arielle, how about you? What's your Dabo round pick?
All right, so I'm going to cheat just a little bit because I have 2 sets of 5 words. You'll see why in a second. But my Dabo round pick is Hablan Español, ya era hora, which means approximately speaking Spanish, it's about time. #Dale. And I enjoyed how much they spoke Spanish this season.
So cool.
I can't express how much fun it was for me to see like a strong set of good Hispanic characters in this season, because I grew up hearing Spanish at home. My family's from South America. And I don't know, it always struck me just how few Hispanic characters we get. We get so much great representation in Trek. That's part of what makes it amazing. But I can think of like only 2 characters off the top of my head. One is Enrique Munoz, and we have one major appearance of him. And then Erica Hernandez from Enterprise. So Picard finally gave us really good Spanish-speaking characters. And, I'm going to miss Rios, Teresa, and Ricardo next season so much. because that was just such a highlight of the season for me. They were so sweet and fantastic. And also the fact that they were able to, speak Spanish, because you have a little bit of a loophole. There are no universal translators in the 21st century, so it doesn't all come across as Federation standard.
Not perfect, but I'm not bad.
He's a 9-year-old who's obsessed with plants. Yo creo que tú vas bien.
How about you? I'll never see you again. I would like to have more in my memory bank than all the times I saved your ass.
I'd like to think we saved each other.
Imagínate que estamos casados.
Wow, mujer. A ver.
Y pasamos cada segundo juntos. Y después se convierte en una transacción de negocios. Hablamos, pero no hablamos. Después nos estancamos, literalmente. Camino a ver a la familia para Navidad, se nos rompe el carro. ¡Ugh! Ahora estamos estancados en un motel de mierda. Vamos a un bar a tomar algo. Cosa que no hacemos hace mucho tiempo. Y estoy pensando en tener un affair con mi amigo del trabajo.
¿Esta eres tú siendo romántica?
At this bar, you tell me something about yourself. I've known you for 10 years, and it brings me to tears. I never knew that. That's what I want you to tell me now. Before you fly away, a fundamental, deepest truth that in another life it took me a decade to learn about you.
That, the moment I fell for you,
Mom? Why tell me how it's
your fault?
And that was fantastic.
That's great. I love that. And their characters were so likable. At the end, when you're wondering if Rios is going to go back to the future, you're hoping he doesn't. He has found his home, and they were such a great set of characters. It was hard not to love them.
Yeah, I loved Rios so much. And I mean, I really didn't want to lose him selfishly. I wanted him to have a reason to come back to the future, but I knew it wasn't going to happen. I don't know. I know we got some, Rios speaking Spanish in season 1, but this was just so great. And I don't know, it made me really happy. So that's why I went with it.
Me encanta esta selección. This is a great pick. A great pick, Arielle. I mean, it's really, really, really cool the way they portrayed Rios and Teresa Ramirez. I just thought the whole thing about it, I love hearing him speak Spanish. I know there's been a lot more of that. Discovery had some cool references that
Oh, that's true. I really didn't think about that at all when I was writing this. Of course, yeah.
They opened up some eyes, but the way this is part of the culture of the show this season, showcasing Rios in that way.
Yeah.
Discovery was literally one line. One of the captains mentioned is abuelo, right?
Yeah, abuela.
Yeah.
It's the first one who speaks Spanish and is like, yeah.
It really is the first one, and it's amazing how they just kind of embraced it and
they filled a hole.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I'll miss Rios so much.
Wait, what episode did you pick?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I really, really thought about this. I was trying to find an episode where we get a lot of interaction between Rios and Teresa, and I landed on Mercy.
Okay.
I think that's when they're all in the ship in La Serena. But yeah. I could have gone with any episode that they were all together in.
I mean, the whole thing there was well done. I was thinking one of my favorite moments of the season, to be honest, is from Watcher when. No, maybe it was Assimilation. It was when she was working on his wrist, and she asked him to tell the story and about a memory, like his earliest childhood memory, and he's telling this really heartfelt story, and then of course she's just doing it to distract him, and then she snaps his finger into place. She's like, "Yeah, cool story."
I climb out, and admirals and captains are there, jaws on the floor, seeing his 8-year-old kid, and my mom. She's looking at me, pretending to be angry, but I knew she was proud. And she said, "Ah!"
Full story.
That whole relationship. I mean, I used this opportunity to focus on, that the fact that they were all speaking Spanish, but also the relationship and like the family element there was just incredible. I really loved seeing it. If you can tell by the way I'm talking about it, it was just probably the sweetest and happiest thing for this entire season.
I love it. It's so cool. Arielle. What country is your family from?
Argentina.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah, half of my family still lives there, so that's cool to see.
Very, very cool. Glad to hear it. I love this pick. Okay, let's go to my Dabo Round pick. I can't remember what it was. Okay, here we go. 5 words and a hashtag. Why does all this matter? Hashtag, it matters to me. You matter to me. And it is Q's farewell scenes in the episode Farewell. And yeah, these scenes, I wanted to highlight them here because I didn't have them covered anywhere else in my picks. And I love what they did with Q this season. I just talked about the writer's room with the Borg and that deconstruction. And now you have these just staggeringly good scenes between Picard and Q in the final episode. An incredible swan song for a character we've known for 35 years. And I just love seeing Q come clean on all this stuff. He's dying alone. And he literally says, I don't want that for you, Jean-Luc. And I know that you've had this, hidden trauma from your childhood that you haven't moved past. And really this whole thing was about setting it up so Jean-Luc could move past that and would not be alone. And that really, really works for me. I just think they really nailed it. And we have, Q once referred to Jean-Luc and Deja Q as the closest thing I have to a friend in the universe. And this moment where Picard, they're just talking, and first he says, why? And then he doesn't really get an answer. Then it's, why me? And then finally he says, why does all this matter? And it's just building the emotion. And Q says, it matters to me. You matter to me. Even gods have favorites. That was a waterworks moment for me. It just absolutely killed me.
Why does all this matter? Is something going to happen for which I will be required?
Must it always have galactic import? Universal stakes, celestial upheaval? Isn't one life enough? You ask me why it matters. It matters to me. You matter to me. Even gods have favorites, Jean-Luc, and you've always been one of mine.
Q.
Time's almost out. I have one last surprise in store.
The whole thing's just beautifully scripted, and I love the way they said goodbye to Q here. Yeah. Assuming it's over for Q, and it's incredible swan song for me. It's staggering that it could even be better than the Picard data stuff from season 1, but for me it really was a home run. So Ron, what's your take on Q's farewell?
Yeah, I mean, even gods have their favorites. If you can watch that and not get choked up, I don't know. It was beautiful. I mean, it was absolutely beautiful. And it goes back, I think it was Terry Metalis who posted, he was 5 feet away from these guys as they were filming this.
Yeah.
And it's just, you can see that John Delancey is one of those, he hasn't played this character in 20 years. And he jumped right back into this role as if he hadn't missed a day. And the entire season, it was Q as we know him. And there's always been such a deep story between Jean-Luc Picard and Q. And we see that it does mean something to Q, which I think for the first time we get to see Q on a so much deeper level. He's not just there to antagonize and have fun, but it actually means something to him. He's much deeper than we've seen. So I love it. I think it's a great pick. It's a great moment.
That's awesome. How about you, Arielle?
Oh, be still my heart. This entire scene pulled at my heartstrings to the absolute maximum. No way I could have kept a dry eye watching this. Everything about Q in this season, but especially in Farewell, there was, I don't know. Yeah, you gave the best line. Even gods have their favorites. It was really, really incredible. I don't know. I have nothing to add. It's just too emotional.
For the one that killed me was when he says, you matter to me. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Goosebumps. Okay. Round 2, our favorite characters. I can't wait to hear this. Ron, who's your top character?
So mine you'll get very quickly. My 5 words is Queen of the New Borg. Hashtag that Borg has talent. And I picked Borg Girardi. We talked about her a minute ago, and it's just such an incredible transformation. And to that end, picking not just Girardi, but the Borg Girardi. I think Annie Wersching's depiction of the Borg Queen this season also gets a shout out, because we do see those two characters get merged so well into one. I have never been a huge fan of the Borg, but this storyline absolutely changed my mind on that. I'm all for it. And I think Alison Pill's acting in this character just, top notch. Love it.
Yeah, incredible character, incredible way they portrayed it. Arielle, what's your take on the Borg Queen? We already know you picked Alison Pill. So.
Yeah, so actually I went back and forth for a while between having Alison Pill as my creative or having Borg Queen Girardi as my character. I was going back and forth between how I wanted to recognize her, and I'm so glad I settled on it as my creative as an actress, because you brought it up here. But yeah, such a great character. Again, shout out to the writers. This season was so well woven, and you see, Annie Wersching coming through even in Alison Pill's portrayal of the Borg Queen in the last 2 episodes. It's just so good.
I love Annie Wersching. What episode did you pick, Ron?
I picked 2 of 1.
Okay, so
when we see that scene where she comes out and is singing, and you see her starting to channel the Borg, it's so believable.
Yeah, that's another one of those jaw-dropping moments when I love when Rafi said it best, like, so Girardi can sing, huh?
Well, that's what I said too. I think that's what everyone at home said.
So Girardi can sing. Okay, Arielle, how about you? Who's your top pick?
Sure. 5 words in the hashtag. Confederation president, certainly not irrelevant. Hashtag Annika 7-shot. And my favorite character this season was 7 of 9. Granted, I have to be a little bit biased here because she's probably one of my favorite characters from any season she's ever been in. She's such an incredible character. I'm a sucker for a good character arc. So if you look at like any of my favorite characters from any of the series, it's always somebody who had a really good arc and grew a lot. Side note, Jim, have you done best character arcs yet?
We did epic arcs. So they were more like, but that was more serialized. So maybe there's character arcs. Yeah, that could be something.
All right. Well, sorry.
And we did it like 5 years ago, so we can redo any topic. I love it. I mean, listen, 7 has one of the best arcs, especially now in Trek.
Yeah, exactly. I'm such a sucker for 7. But yeah, in this season, we get a different side of her because, in Penance, she wakes up without her implants, and all of a sudden she's Annika, although she still goes by 7. And you just get this kind of confidence and this kind of, understanding that you never see come from her, like self-assuredness. And it's really, really cool to see. My episode, I think, was Watcher. I went back and forth for a while on that, but I really liked the scene with like the police and the talking to the guard and every bit of her interaction there was incredible.
Yeah, I love the pick. 7 had an amazing story. I love when she wakes up, after the hide and seek, when the Borg Queen's basically going to kill her, and they bring her back, and she's has her implants again, and she's been kind of reassimilated, or for lack of a better term, and she's learned that that's who she is. She accepts it, and that's and she realizes that was always her, because there was all these scenes building up to that where Jerry Ryan, full credit, where she would go into kind of 7 mode when something would happen, and you could just see her performance change, and now she's analyzing something as 7 versus more of a 20, more of a human. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, I also thought about Mercy. I also thought about using Mercy for this episode, for the pick for this one, because you get some of that Borg 7 coming through into never having been assimilated 7, but I ended up going with Watcher.
Yeah, because I think in Mercy they were tracking for her, right? Anyway, that's fantastic. I love Jerry Ryan.
I think everyone does.
Yeah, one of the highlights of the season. Ron, what's your take?
I love it. I think you really see her in the second episode too, when she wakes up and is the president. You see her completely jump back into 7 of 9 mode.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun because her voice changes, her mannerisms change, and you really see that. And as far as her arc goes, for me, a big moment in this series was finding out why she didn't join Starfleet. And that was a really deep, lingering question from the first season. How did she end up with the Fenris Rangers? And to find out that it was pure racism against being an ex-Borg. I think it shows us what her return to the Alpha Quadrant was like after being on Voyager.
Everything she was afraid of.
Yeah, and I wish we got a little bit more of the Raffi and Seven dynamic. I think there's a whole story to be told there. But it was the pieces we got were beautiful and stunning, and I want more of it. I've said a spin-off for everything at this point, but I really
that was one of the ones I was
spin-off.
trying to think of. That's one of the ones I was trying. Everybody wants the Raffi and Seven spin-off. Fenris Rangers.
I mean, she's captain of the Stargazer now. It's all set up. Let's make it happen.
Hey, we still have a chance at that one. They're both still in season 3, so
I know,
fingers
right?
crossed.
They're both still going to be there. That's incredible. I think you're right. There was the Raffi and Seven stuff was a little light through the season. I like what they did with it. Obviously, there's only so much you can cram into 10 episodes. But I love you mentioned the her being rejected by Starfleet, because my headcanon on that is that because Icheb was accepted, right? So he got in. But my headcanon is that Seven came back and they were kind of giving her a hard time, like they were questioning her. She just was like, nope, moving on. If you're not gonna, and Icheb kind of, went through the process and stuck around and eventually got accepted. That was kind of how it was.
I saw a lot of people complaining about, the fact that Starfleet wouldn't accept Seven. I don't know, an attachment to the idealistic utopian Starfleet. And I'm like, I think that ship kind of sailed a while ago for Picard, but I really think it's great world building. I mean, it's a logical progression that there would have been a racist Starfleet that was afraid of allowing an ex-Borg in. And I think there are plenty of totally valid explanations, like you said, for Icheb getting in and Seven not. I don't know. I think anybody on Twitter who's tried to call this a plot hole, and maybe this is just me who's seen this, but I've seen it a few times, seen so many people saying, aha, I got you. I found a plot hole. I'm like, no, this isn't a plot hole. This totally makes sense.
It does. I mean, to me, it's real simple. They said right away, they were like, yeah, no, we're going to need to talk about this, or we're going to need to make you jump through hoops. And she was like, yeah, I'm gone. So that was my take.
Janeway threatening to quit, or resign also makes total sense. And that's, we've gotten other references of her. We got her in, I guess, Nemesis, but it was cool to hear a name drop too.
Love that. Yeah. Just one of many. Okay. Well, fire off those torpedoes again, Ron. You and I are on the same page. 5 words and a hashtag, although we don't have the same episode, so we can split that. 5 words and a hashtag. Whose hand is this? Hashtag mine. It is Assimilation, the 3rd episode of Star Trek Picard season 2, and my pick is Queen Agnes. And I look at this as the ultimate cheat because I get 3 characters with one. We've got you've got Jurati, and you've got the Borg Queen, and you've got what I call them in the combination is Queen Agnes. And Assimilation is my episode. I love this scene with Alison Pill. Again, we're talking about her acting when she sits down and lets the Borg Queen kind of merge with her, and Picard's monitoring her. Just the acting in this is so good. And let me highlight a few of my favorite elements from this. So first, the reason I picked it, Agnes Queen merging in that episode, her performance, she opens up her mind from like her caustic loneliness. She calls Picard a pretentious prick. She says she wishes he was her dad. She gets really sad. I mean, she even talks about suicidal thoughts. And in the end, this moment that Leah Thompson just directed this to perfection, the way she shot up from Jurati with the Borg Queen hanging over her when the hand grabs Picard as he's about to disconnect her, and he says, whose hand is this? And they both go, mine.
Agnes, stay with me.
The more I repair her, the stronger she...
We become.
Locutus, it has been so long since I felt anything so intense as this one's longing. Picard, I'm almost there.
pulling you out.
I can see so much. The Watcher, 15.
Don't. Whose hand is this?
Mine.
Absolutely incredible. And if that wasn't enough, then when you think the Borg Queen's got the best of her, when they've disconnected her and she's walking away, she says, "Computer, dictate the file log. Shit I stole from the Borg Queen." One of my favorite lines of the season. Just absolute, just a goosebump moment. Just brilliantly written, really clever. And then if that wasn't enough, they circle back because the Borg Queen's pissed, but not so much because she got smarted, but she's just like, "You've done something very dangerous. You've impressed me." Which just, I didn't think I could get my socks knocked off again, and it did. That whole scene is really as good as it gets. And then, of course, you picked two of one. That would be my other highlight, Shadows of the Night. Just an incredible moment, introducing them together in that way. Absolutely brilliant, people. You're missing out if you didn't like this season. I don't get it. Ron, what's your take on anything? Any other thoughts on the Borg Queen?
Just the episode that you chose was definitely one of those. The minute that the Borg starts assimilating Agnes, I'm yelling at the TV, like literally yelling, "Don't do it! Take her off!" That scene was just for me. I'm like, we're terrified of the Borg. What are they doing? Very interactive, just great acting from Alison Pill, and just that character is amazing. Yes, I want to see more.
Yeah, in that episode, you also have Annie where she's crawling around the deck of La Serena, which is one of the creepiest things. Arielle, what's your take on Queen Agnes? Any other thoughts?
Oh, wow. We've talked about this so extensively. I think it's pretty clear that Agnes, Pirati, and the Borg Queen are the highlight, probably for all of us. But yeah, just awesome. And I like the fact that you picked this episode too, because we've covered so many bases. I think every single episode could have been picked.
For sure. We will count them up when we get to the end. Let's see how many are covered. And now we're going to round one. Let's hear our top episodes of the year and see what else we need to talk about.
Begin round one.
Ron, what's your number one pick?
So my 5 words are Will Wheaton lied to us, #farewell mon capitaine, and my pick is Farewell, the season finale. It was just such a great conclusion to this season that had a lot of closure on a lot of characters that we've come to love. We learned that Rios, his storyline ends, and we learn exactly how he dies. And it's a beautiful way for a character to die, which we don't always get. We never want to see them die, but when we find out how, it's just very touching. We find out Elnor is alive and okay, thanks to Q. Laris and Picard are together. In that last scene, I've always been a Crusher Picard shipper until this season. I'm Team Laris. Let's make it happen. We already talked about that scene with Q where he says goodbye and everybody's crying. Wesley Crusher, we find him and he's a traveler, and that is such a setup. Everything's kind of come to a nice bookend except for that storyline. I think we have more of that. Seeing 7 of 9 become the captain of the Stargazer, seeing Guinan again, there was just so much wrap up in that last episode. But they did a good job also not making any of it feel rushed, in my opinion. It was very well laid out and put together.
Totally agree. It's an amazing finale. I think they did a great job because they shoved a lot of the Borg stuff into the 9th episode, Hide and Seek. And then it just kind of freed up this episode. They closed off so much. And you didn't even mention that the Borg have requested, membership in the Federation, and that they're going to be the guardians of this anomaly, this gate that has appeared, and is obviously going to be part of something to do with season 3, which Terry Matalas, by the way, has told us again on Twitter, just enough of a fun little hint that season 3 is going to start about a year after season 2, which to me is a great little thing to know. Yeah, Elnor came back. It's just so much in this episode, and it never feels rushed. I think it's fantastic. I also love the reveal that, when Edith Piaf's song is playing in the Stargazer, you think it's Q, right? And Q's zapping him back. But it was Girardi that was playing the Edith Piaf song to calm down Picard on the bridge and send him a message that, hey, I'm with you. So Yeah, it's a great finale. I love it. Arielle, what's your take on Farewell?
Oh, so incredible. There were so many things to talk about. I think we hit on most of them. It tied off every storyline well. And I really do appreciate the fact that they tied off most of the Borg ends, like you said, in episode 9. But it did leave us with the huge question of Federation membership for the Borg. I mean, that piqued my imagination. I don't know about you guys. Though I think we did find out that Alison Pill isn't in season 3. So I really want to know what they're doing with that.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I mean, listen, it's season 3. Obviously, it's been reintroduced as getting the gang back together from TNG. There's only 10 episodes. There's only going to be so much space.
Yeah, I understand that they couldn't keep everyone, but
it would be nice. But I will always look at it as a positive sense of like, man, I'm so glad we got 20 episodes of Alison Pill in Star Trek.
Yeah, absolutely. They were all good.
Her and Picard together through both seasons, to me, was a real highlight of the series thus far. And yeah, I still think the Borg, they're going to have to address that storyline at some level. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
Okay, Arielle, what's your number one pick, your top episode of the season?
So 5 words and a hashtag. Starfleet we know and love, hashtag one final frontier yet to come. So you went with the finale and I went with the season premiere Stargazer.
I love it.
I thought a lot about this because at first it felt a little wrong to pick the premiere as my favorite episode. Like I was dissing the rest of the season, but no, the premiere was so strong. I have seen every episode of Star Trek ever produced, I think, and I don't think I've ever walked away from an episode feeling so thrilled and excited as I did after this one. Like I had to take time to gather myself. This was so exciting and incredible. It's an episode that has absolutely everything. It had, Picard giving a classic Picard speech. We had Guinan, we had Q, we had the Stargazer, we had ships and, the entire fleet that we got. It was just incredible. I don't even have words to describe how good this episode made me feel.
I love that you picked it. It's probably my second favorite episode of the season. My favorite thing about it, and I've talked about this, so the first season of Picard, it was necessary, it hurt, but it was really well done. The first 5 episodes of the season 1 of Picard, everything Picard does, everybody he meets is like over it. They don't want anything to do with the guy. They don't treat him with any respect. They're, whether it's Admiral F-Bomb or the guy who doesn't recognize him at Starfleet or Rafi's over it. Everybody until he gets the Hugh hug, right? About halfway through the season. In this episode, it's like the complete opposite. And it just felt so good that there's an admiral coming to him saying, hey, we need your help. There's him and Laris connecting. When he gets on board the Stargazer, all the crew's just like, holy crap, Picard's here. I love that dichotomy in the Stargazer. What you said, Arielle, I think is accurate. It's a great episode of Star Trek. It's one of the best, and it just fills me with joy, and it's definitely going to be one of my all-time favorite episodes of Trek to say the least. I really, really love this season. Ron, what's your take on the Stargazer? You picked it twice, so I know you love it.
And I almost picked this as my number 1, but couldn't pick the Stargazer for 3.
Right.
It's a phenomenal episode, and I think it sets up the series really well. Something I loved about the second season was Admiral Picard is himself again.
Right.
The first season of Picard, it was so necessary to see the growth of that character it had and to find him where he was. Yeah. But we start this season and he's back in Starfleet and he's making a difference and he's doing what we as fans, and I think he's a character, is meant to do, and that's to be in Starfleet in one way or another. So I think it was a great kickoff to the season. And I'll shout out that ship one more time. That Stargazer ship was absolutely stunning.
Yeah, amazing. And I'm glad you mentioned that speech too, Arielle, because being at Starfleet Academy is just really, really cool. Okay, so that's my second favorite episode. My number 1 episode, 5 words and a hashtag, a penance that pays off, hashtag from President Hansen to Spot 73. And it's the next episode, it's Penance. This is one of the most fun episodes of Star Trek I've ever seen. I love it. You have the first 10 minutes is Picard and Q which really paints the picture for the entire season. You immediately know that the scenario Q is setting up has a little more at stake, and you get the feeling that Picard knows deep down what it's about. Like I wrote that in my review, that you could feel like Q, it says it's personal, and you get the feeling that Picard knows what it's about and needs to fight his way through it, which he does. And the whole thing just connects really well to Farewell and how the season plays out. And then on the Q side, you've got this visceral, angry, out of it Q who knows there's more at stake for him, and we don't know what that is, and we find out later that he's dying and losing his powers and fading. And yeah, that's just all the conversation they have in this episode with the conversation in Farewell. It's just a perfect bookend, and credit to the writer's room. But my favorite thing about this episode, the fun part, that's kind of the setup. Once it's like Mirror Mirror, right? It's just smart characters thrown into this weird alternate reality, and they just quickly figure out what's going on. And the way this episode unfolds, it's just really direct. It's like a straight line. It just tears from one scene to the next, A to B to C. Everyone just slowly figuring out what's going on, because only Picard knows about the Q part of it. Everyone else has to kind of figure it out. Like, oh, what am I doing here? And so you have Seven wakes up as president. She figures out a way to connect with Rios, and Girardi's waking up alone in her lab, and she figures out that she's alone everywhere. And then, Rafi and Elnor connect, and then Picard and Rafi and Elnor connect, and then they all get together in the lab, and all those conversations are just so much fun. The escape is fun. To me, this is just amazing, smart storytelling. And then I was going to rattle off a whole bunch of Easter eggs, but Ron already did that. So, because there's like 30 of them in this episode, from Patton Oswalt to Tuvok to General Sisko, so I won't rattle them all off again. But I love it. A fantastic episode. And Doug Arniokoski was the director for The Stargazer and Penance. And I just think these two episodes together are brilliant. Okay, any other thoughts on Penance, which we have talked about as well? Ron?
Just an incredible episode. And again, we get to see a whole new side of Q. When he hits Picard and we see Picard's nose start to bleed, that tells you right away, this is not the Q that we know and are used to. This is very different. And I think it was a great setup for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it was visceral and out of control. Arielle, any other thoughts?
Yeah, this is one of the episodes I did find time to rewatch. So on the rewatch after the finale, I agree with you. I realized that it was totally setting up the rest of the season. Picard knew this definitely had foreshadowing that I just wasn't able to catch the first time I watched it. So yeah, it got better with the rewatch, and I suspect the entire season will.
Yeah, this is, I'll say it many times as I can. This is the most bingeable season of Star Trek ever. It's one 10-part story, and it's a time travel story, and 7 episodes take place in modern day Earth, and there's no starships in sight. So I get it. If somebody doesn't like it for that reason, I'd be like, okay, I get that. But I don't get it when people say, I don't like it because all the stories didn't connect. It's like, what? I just don't get that. These stories were amazingly connective. I can't even believe what a great job they did.
Let's see what you can do with the secondary systems.
Okay, secondary systems. Let's run. What do you got? Rattle them off.
So I'm just going to rattle these off, but Jeff Russo's score, the soundtrack's on Spotify. It is beautiful. The soundtrack update, or the theme song, was a great update to the theme song. Seeing Raffi and Seven as a couple, obviously, I'm in love with those two. The whole car chase scene in Watcher, I think, was just something we've never seen in Star Trek, that kind of action that was great, which was direct.
That's great, yeah.
And that episode directed by Leah Thompson, who I think deserves a great shout out. Welcome to the Trek family. We saw Jonathan Frakes direct a couple episodes. I'm just going to say Jonathan Frakes because he needs to be mentioned. The relationship between Elnor and Raffi, I think, was absolutely beautiful. It killed me that they killed Elnor off so early, but it just reminded us that not all family needs to be related. I know that Raffi's relationship with her son wasn't great, and it was great to see her find that with Elnor. The character of Renee Picard, cool backstory to the Picard family tree. a line that was mentioned in Generations then becomes kind of a central point in season 2 of Star Trek Picard. We talked about Chateau Picard. We saw it redressed 3 different times, and it was really we saw more time in Chateau Picard than I think we did any of the ships this season. So that kind of became our ship for the season. And last, my most random one is seeing Patrick Stewart in a tuxedo in 2 of 1. Just an incredible look for Captain Picard, and I'm all for it.
I love that they had the 5th episode of season 1 was Stardust City Rag with their kind of heist episode. They did the same thing in the 5th episode of this season with Fly Me to the Moon in 2 of 1 in the 5th and 6th episodes. Really, really cool. I love your shout out to Renee Picard. That is a fantastic, worthy observation. Arielle, how about you? What's on your list?
Sure. I have crossed off a whole bunch because you hit a bunch of them. But first of all, both Maurice and Yvette Picard were both incredible. I loved their portrayals. This is embarrassing. I don't really know how to pronounce the actress's name, but young Guinan.
Yes.
That was fantastic. It's so hard to take a character who has, so much love behind her and play a different version, but it was great. I love the music cues. They brought back the theme from First Contact a few times, and themes that are associated with the Borg. It's all great. The emergency combat hologram with Elnor. Chateau Picard in 3 different time periods or timelines used for all sorts of different purposes. I especially loved the tunnels underneath and the way they were used in hide and seek.
I love that too.
Yeah, and similarly, how they had Picard, Picard's like flashbacks, and especially in Monster when he was kind of in his own head, and we had young Picard. That was great, and also, well, yes, the solarium and the drawing on or painting on the windows, and finally, this is also oddly specific, but the red dress that they have Alison Pill wear, have Draddy in at the gala, and then the episode after, both great.
Incredible, and the way that red dress, the cut reflected the Borg outfit, and really, really, really cool. So the Guinan actress is, I know it's Ito, like Aguirre.
Yeah.
Aguirre. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but she was really good, really, really good as Guinan. Super, super good. Okay, I'm gonna rattle off just a few that weren't mentioned here. We mentioned it in the show, but my toughest cut was Wesley as the Traveler and the whole link of the supervisors to Assignment Earth and Talon and Orla Brady. I love that whole thing. When we realized in Watcher the first time they kind of revealed that Talon was the supervisor from like Assignment Earth when she walked out of the vault and the smoky transporter, I was just like, wow, we have not seen this for 50 some odd years in Trek. Super cool. And it's funny, in a previous episode of TrekRanks, I was talking about this, and I said it's funny that we didn't get a closer on that. We never learned anything more. Like we didn't know anything more about the supervisors. Of course, I hadn't seen episode 10 at that point. Now we do. Now we know more about the supervisors. They are run by the Travelers. Super, super cool. I wanted to give a shout out to John Briones. His performance, Issa Briones' dad, as a Confederation magistrate is really good. I mean, that is an amazing dynamic performance from an actor in basically one episode. Just incredible. Love all the new phasers and all the props and tech that these guys use. My special, I was going to want to shout out. A lot of people criticize the episode Mercy. I like the episode Mercy, where it's the interrogation episode. Like, what's the point? This and that. There's a lot of points. It connects a lot of the through lines for the story. But I love the Agent Wells Carbon Creek connection. I mean, and I know it's not actual Carbon Creek, but I just love that Terry Matalas, who cut his teeth on Enterprise, at some point in this storytelling in the room was just like, yeah, why don't we just have him? He saw aliens like the Vulcans in Carbon Creek, and they really, I love that. To me, that's a fun element that they added. And then my special shout out, you talked about a little bit with your Dabo Round Pick, Arielle, is Dr. Teresa Ramirez, played by Sol Rodriguez. And just the 21st century Jillian Taylor, I love it, with kind of the reverse that Rios stays instead of, but the fact that she's exposed to the ship and beams on board, and that whole, the Mariposas and the storyline with Rios, and just that sound, that line. I really appreciate this. I was able to watch this scene with a group of friends when Rios says, "I'm from Chile, I just work in outer space." And the room just exploded in joy when that happened. Just complete joy. It was an amazing, amazing tribute to Trek and the way that these writers put this season together. So I love it.
Are you from outer space?
No. I'm from Chile. I work in outer space.
Okay. That's amazing. Let's get into our regeneration cycle and recap these picks and talk about some stats.
Computer, activate regeneration cycle. Alcoves beta and gamma.
Okay, Ron, recap your picks real quick.
Perfect. So my number 5 pick for production design element was the USS Stargazer. My number 4 pick for creative or actor was Terry Metalis and Dave Blass. My number 3 for the Dabo round was all the cameos, callbacks, and Easter eggs. My number 2 pick for character was Borg Girardi. And my number 1 pick for a favorite episode was the finale, Farewell.
I love it. Arielle, recap. So you had 2 Stargazers. I love that. Arielle, how about you? Recap your 5.
The production design element was the entire aesthetic of the alternate future. My creative was Alison Pill as Girardi and Borgatti. My Dabo Round pick was the fact that they speak Spanish so much in this season, which was a great moment for representation. My favorite character was 7 of 9, and my favorite episode from this season was Stargazer.
We all had the Stargazer as one of our picks. I love that. My number 5 pick was the Stargazer, a duplicate. My number 4 pick for creative was the entire writer's room, and I rattled off a bunch of names that no one's ever heard of, which I think they deserved a lot of credit. Number 3 Dabo Round pick was Q's Farewell and Farewell. Number 2, my number 1 character was Queen Agnes throughout the year. Amazing, easy pick for me. And number 1 episode was Penance, just a super fun alternate universe romp. I love it. I'm going to go watch it right now. Okay, let's recap some of the stats. We had 2 duplicates. For characters that were highlighted, we had 1 for pick for 7. Q was highlighted in my Dabo Round pick. And then Queen Agnes, Borg Girardi was picked 3 times, with the Alison Pill being selected by Arielle. I love it. The episode count, only 2 episodes did not get picked. That would be Fly Me to the Moon and Monsters. Across the board, we had 1 for Assimilation, Watcher, 2 of 1, and Mercy. 2 each for Penance, Hide and Seek, and the finale, Farewell. And the premiere episode, The Stargazer, had 4 picks. It really is just that good. I love it. All right. As we do every week, we've been hit by a temporal distortion. So before we can depart, it's time to hear from you.
The temporal distortions are fracturing space-time throughout the ship.
Cause? Unknown.
Oh, we know the cause, Mr. Tuvok, to all the amazing feedback that we continue to receive from our listeners here at TrekRanks. And this week's temporal distortion has now us back to episode 130 and our top 5 Q moments, which is was our preview episode for the 2nd season of Picard. So that's appropriate this week. We got in a lovely voicemail from Rebecca Skipper, who is at Skipper8210. I love her pick. So here's her voice.
Hi, this is Becky. Here are my top 5 Q episodes. Q is one of my favorite characters. Number 5, Encounter at Farpoint. Hashtag is New Beginning. 5 words are He started it all, referring to Q, and the trial never ends. Number 4, my hashtag Borg intro. My 5-word summary is Picard is in serious trouble. Episode is Q Who. It's a very dramatic episode especially for members of the crew who were not accustomed to seeing such a horrific enemy before. But you could argue that Archer in Enterprise and Regeneration with that homing beacon is the real culprit. Maybe not Q, but that's debatable. It's one of those canon-changing moments for me. Okay, number 3, Tapestry. My 2 words are alternate lives, hashtag regrets will never pay off, and I like this episode because it examines what Picard could have become, and for the first time I actually see Q as being a helpful figure and someone who actually cares about Picard and teaches him a lesson in such a way that no one else could. And I think Picard is better off, and I'm starting to wonder if things around Tapestry aren't going to be revisited in season 2 of Picard. It would only make sense. Number 2, my hashtag is alternate future. My 5 words are universe-ending phenomenon. Picard beats it. Well, I know that was 6 words, but I chose this episode because it is an outstanding 2 hours of television, and although it's controversial, I like the Picard that we see here better than the Picard that we see in the future, because at least the Picard that we see here retires from Starfleet and didn't leave it abruptly, or so I'm presuming. That and the fact that he got married to Beverly Crusher, never mind that they got divorced and we didn't see any kids. The novels did much better on that. Sadly, those ended because of the Coda trilogy. So moving along to my number 1 pick, which is a cheat, I know. My hashtag is unexpected meeting, and my 5-word summary is verbal showdown between Bach and Q. It is the 2-part play from Alien Voices, Bach versus Q. Any actor who can engage with an audience in a play like this is outstanding. And John Delancey and Leonard Nimoy did an outstanding job. This is comfort food for me, and that's why it's number 1. Hope that was okay to cheat. I consider it my personal Star Trek canon.
Love that list from Becky. She had some classic picks, and I really love her cheat at number 1, which was part of my secondary systems for that Q episode. The audio album of Spock versus Q was her number 1, her pick, the Alien Voices recording with Leonard Nimoy and John Delancey. I love that. And her number 3 pick was kind of prophetic for Picard as well. She actually mentions that she thought Tapestry would play a big part in the story for Picard season 2, and it was kind of a blueprint for a supersized version of that this year. So love those picks. Once again, those picks, more than enough to clear ourselves from this week's temporal distortion. So as always, I want to thank everyone for all your great responses to the TrekRanks podcast. Please keep your list coming to me at TrekRanks on Twitter so we can retweet them. But we also want to hear from you. So put together your own list of top 5 Picard season 2 moments, or a list from any of our past shows, and give us a call at the Tricorder Transmissions at 609-512-5527. That's 609-512-LLAP. So hopefully we'll hear from you so you can be featured on the next episode of TrekRanks. And on the next episode of TrekRanks, we have already teased this episode once because we had to go out of order a little bit in some of our episodes, but we're doing it again. Our next episode is now number 136, our live episode from Mission Chicago. So I'm going to ask you guys again. We've already asked, I don't know who we asked. We asked somebody this. It's going to be our top 5 sleazy locales. So Ron and Arielle, if you had to choose one sleazy locale in Star Trek, what would it be? Ron, what do you got?
I mean, my favorite character in all of Star Trek is Quark, so I would have to choose the sleaziest location, which is likely Quark's bar, the Holosuites.
I'm pretty sure it's Quark's Holosuites. I love it. Fantastic. Arielle, how about you? You got a sleazy locale that tops your list?
Man, I am really disappointed you picked Quarks first because that was what I was going to go for. Yeah. My number one sleazy location is probably the bar with the fat Ferengi from Unification. That was awesome.
I love it. I'm pretty sure we covered that bar in the episode. That was our live recording with a lot of people. So that was a fun one. It's coming soon. And all right, before we wrap it up, a huge thanks to Ron, Wrobel, and Arielle K. Awesome having you guys on the show.
I was wondering if you could show me how to access these subspace communications logs.
We're going to do that right now, Neelix. So any final Trek subspace communications either one of you want to relay before we depart? Ron.
Just thank you so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun, and I absolutely love doing my TrekRanks homework.
I love it. I gave you short notice, so I appreciate you getting it done. Arielle, thanks for reaching out about this one. Arielle, thanks for reaching out about this one.
Oh, of course. I had so much fun. And I just want to say that Engage and Make It So are so 24th century, and I'm going to leave you with Dale.
I love it, Dale.
Love it.
So good. I'm going to leave you with See You Out There. Of course, we're also going to say our normal thanks for engaging with us here on episode 135 of the TrekRanks podcast. As always, I want to close by saying I'm looking forward to standing with you again here in this place where I belong. We're running with the shadows. I'm leaving that in. Okay.
We're running with the shadows after night. Baby, take my hand, you'll be alright. Surrender all your dreams to me tonight. They'll come true in the end. Oh, girl, it's a cold world when you keep it all to yourself. Now you can't hide on the inside all the pain you've ever felt. Ransom my heart, but baby, don't look back, 'cause we've got nobody else. We're running with the shadows of the night. Baby, take my hand, you'll be alright. Surrender all your dreams to me tonight. They'll come true in the end.
Just want to remind everyone again that the entire TrekRanks catalog is available for you to download and listen to at TrekRanks.com and on your podcast player of choice. Our episodes never get carbon dated, so check out the topics you've missed and maybe just want to listen to again over at TrekRanks.com. And a reminder to check out our friends 5-Year Mission at 5yearmission.net. They're writing a song for every episode of Star Trek, and you won't believe how great their music is. They also have a podcast at the Trek Geeks Network, so seek them out. You won't regret it.
What did you do? Where is it? You
Stole it. Computer, dictate the file log shit I stole from the Borg Queen.
34.0488 north.
No one takes from me, my dear.
18 west.
Coordinates.
To find the Watcher.
Oh, well done.
I suppose even higher cybernetic life forms can get sloppy with where they leave secrets lying around. But there's more, isn't there? When it happens. I can almost feel it. It'll come to me.
What you have just done here is more difficult and vastly more dangerous than you realize.
And what is that?
You've impressed me.